your ideas about what's meaningful in life, and it does take a toll on self-love, like this innate ability to just love yourself and see your truths with compassion. It kind of creates a lot of filtration systems. I'm gonna wait for this. So having something that feels private, like a personal AI to give you those encouragements, I can only imagine how powerful that can be, in addition to, you know, finding supportive relationships and integrating oneself back into society in whatever pace feels good and natural.
Yeah, and there's actually another GPT, artificial intelligence assistant, that I made called Perpetratorology Assistant.
Oh, interesting.
So these all have different functions, and this Perpetratorology Assistant is you can use it in an accompaniment with the other GPTs. So this one, a lot of times what people have done, and I mean it's we have to have victimology, right? And that's what typically what law enforcement and society and anybody really, a lot of people do, is they look at the victim first and they don't look at the perpetrator. So I'm trying to pivot to the perpetrator, and so I want to look at the perpetrator, like what are they doing? They all have a playbook. Like there is a definite 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8 stages to the domestic violence wheel.
Sure.
Or the domestic violence stages. It's called the homicide timeline. In 2019, this professor, Jane Monkton Smith, she researched about 400 femicides. Femicides is when the homicide specifically pertains to a woman. So they researched about 400 femicides, and instead of looking at the victim, they looked at, Professor Jane Monkton Smith and her team looked at the perpetrator. And they all followed 8 stages, 7 stages, followed by the 8th stage, which is the final stage leading to the femicide. So, they definitely have this, they have a pattern to them. And so what they had to do, Professor Jane Monkton Smith, is they had to go through each file and they had to, look through everything. But with my Perpetratorology Assistant, you can actually upload documents to it, and it will read all the document, and it will give you a perspective that you've never seen before, like things that you just it'll shine a light on things that it'll validate you, and it will also to me it was frightening reading some of the analytics that it generated for me. There was a list that one of my abusers wrote about me when I first met him a long time ago, and when you look at this list, it could be a pros and cons list, but when you put it into the Perpetratorology Assistant, it tells you that this is not a pros and cons list. It really freaked me out, and it validated the feelings of fear that I have been experiencing, and it added some new ones. So
use with caution. I'm hearing it.
Yeah, there is
and with some support.
There is a legal disclaimer on that one too.
And dealing with, like, looking at the perpetrator in that situation, he probably felt he wasn't doing anything wrong in writing that list. That's why he would put it on paper to a certain extent. He probably felt, he was transparent enough to do that, because I've been in abusive relationships to a fact that they would never want to put, she would never want to put anything in writing to a fact
Evidence?
like that.
Yeah.
Evidence to the fact of
Well, that's the narcissist for you.
and not wanting to acknowledge it in any way. So, and I'm not letting off the hook
Right.
for like even a second, but I'm just saying that we have to not necessarily go to the extreme. All men are bad.
For sure.
There's a lot of that going around, even if it's joking. There's a lot of that going around.
It sounds like it's probably that case for both genders. Like there's all these like unpleasant stereotypes thrown on women, and victims and men, whether they're a perpetrator or a victim. I mean, men can be victims too. So.
Well, I definitely believe though that we are experiencing a men's mental health crisis globally, not just in America. This has been going on. What I learned in my advocacy work is the history of domestic violence, basically. And 80 years ago, a report came out, a medical report, which was done by some very bad people. I don't know if I'm like what kind of language I'm allowed to use on your channel.
Say anything you fucking want.
Pedophiles.
Yeah.
So this guy named Dr. Alfred Kinsey, he wrote the Kinsey Report, and he was a pedophile. What do you call it? Sympathizer at best. At best.
Not a good thing to put on your resume.
No. So basically, he validated this agenda to gaslight men into objectifying and dehumanizing women. And in doing so, it unleashed a very negative energy which deduced the woman power of motherhood, and then that led to the children. Like they wanted to do that to get to the children. So this has been going on for 80 years, and so we're experiencing an uptick in pedophilia in Australia, for example. I think it's like one in 4 men are attracted to children, and it's absurd, So that's in Australia, but we are experiencing an uptick in sociopathy, and the American Psychology Association, or maybe it was Psychology Today, I can't remember who it was, they thought that we were going to experience a influx of narcissistic personality disorder after the 2008 housing crisis. So they saw this coming, they knew it was going to happen, and I'm here to expose it. I definitely know that men can be victims of domestic violence too, but we cannot ignore the fact that mostly men are the ones that are doing the abusing, and that's all I'm trying to say.
Yeah, for sure.
For sure.
So when she was also a Lyft passenger in addition to Wendy, that was the one that I said I should listen to women right now, and now I'm noticing I'm not listening, I'm just talking again. But one of the things we had talked about is how the brain for perpetrators and victims, and also people that have Alzheimer's, how it's affected in a certain way. You want to go into that, and I want you to kind of contribute to in a way of how we can heal those things with plant medicine and other things.
Yes. All right. So yeah, I live to talk about this stuff. So basically, when I was a young girl, I learned that sociopaths have a shrunken amygdala, and that's this little pea-sized, I believe it's a gland, I'm not 100% sure, but it's a little organ, I guess, whatever, maybe not an organ, It's a little thing in the back of your brain.
The base of our actual spine, actually. It's like the most inner part of our brain.
And the narcissistic personality disorder people have a shrunken one, and which makes
Mine's
sense
huge.
because I think mine's huge too. Yo, I got a big amygdala. So, but yeah,
That's what she said.